What's good, everyone? OJ here. Welcome back to another video. Today we're talking about Astral Chain 2 and what I would like to see in the sequel to the 2019 action RPG from Platinum Games and Nintendo. But before we get into anything, please make sure you hit that like button, subscribe if you're someone new, and click that notification bell to get my videos first. Now, not a lot of people played Astral Chain compared to a lot of the bigger games on the Nintendo Switch, so allow me to shill and sell it just a bit because I feel that this game deserves every bit of notoriety and every bit of love it can get. This is a action RPG game from Platinum Games. Once again, it has a very unique art style, very cool abilities. It is a fantastic game with a very unique idea of essentially controlling two characters at one time. You have your person that you use who's part of the Neuron Task Force, and you can fight and do things yourself with a very cool X-Baton weapon that morphs from one thing to another. You have like a big great sword, then you also have like a regular quick baton, but then it could also morph into a gun. So it's a very unique and very fun weapon to use. But you also have these things called legions that you can control by using the shoulder buttons and the analog stick to shoot the legion out, to do special attacks, to do combo attacks with your user as well. So it was a very cool concept. It was a very fun type of game to play. And once you actually got the hang of how to control yourself along with the legion and do different types of attacks and kind of mix things together, it created a gameplay experience that I have never experienced before in a game, and which is why it leads to so many people having it as a cult hit and so many people saying that, man, this game is really good. I'd love to see a sequel. I'd love to see what they do more with it. But that being said, there's definitely some things that I would love to see in terms of improvements and making the game better and the franchise better going forward in the future. And we're going to talk about those here. Now, let's just start with the story. And I don't want to spoil it for those who just got it because it was, I think, $26. There's still some people who were picking it up or who were going to get it. So I won't say too much on it. But I would love to see a bit more depth within the characters and also with the story, with more unique angles, some twists and turns that maybe you didn't expect. Some people felt that the story was a little bit too cliche, and I understand that. I'm not really big on the whole, oh, well, the story's just terrible and all this when it comes to a story that's just like normal for the most part. So it wasn't something that was a big problem with me, but I can see how making a more unique and non-cliche type of story would definitely be better for the overall product of the game. So yeah, definitely going forward with the next one, I think that they will make some more unique angles and more unique ideas with what they do with the story and how the story is told itself. Now, next up is the thing that's the most important here, and that is the gameplay improvements. What do you want to see with this game going forward with the gameplay stuff? And yeah, there are quite a number of tweaks that I'd like to see. Now, starting out with probably the most important to me, and this is a very technical thing, and it doesn't ruin the experience, but it's something that definitely takes some time to get used to, and that is the dodging in the game, the momentum-based dodging. Now, the game does have omnidirectional dodging, and what I mean by that is that anytime you move the analog stick in one way, it will dodge that way. So it's not just like pre-canned animation of dodging to one side or another. If you want to dodge backwards, you press back and press the dodge button. If you want to dodge to the left or to the right, you do that. If you want to roll forward, you do that as well. However, things get a little bit tricky when you start moving. Now, if you're going forward or you're running forward and you want to just stop doing that and dodge backwards, it will not do that. What instead it will do is a running, jumping dodge forward. Like, it will actually just take your momentum that way and do it forward. You have to make sure that you don't have any pressure on the analog stick in terms of moving forward for you to do that. So if you're running forward and then you quickly input back and the dodge button, it might not read it correctly and you might just do a forward roll instead of a back dodge. Now, that is very different from Platinum Games' other titles, especially with Bayonetta, where anytime you can press the direction and you can press the dodge button and Bayonetta will dodge in that direction. So I'm really hoping that they tweak that for the next Astral Chain game. That's something that so many times I was fighting against a boss and I'm running around because bosses are just going nuts on you when it comes down to it, and I try to dodge backwards or to the side and I end up doing a forward roll right into a big attack and getting just smacked upside the head or something like that. So definitely something that I would love for them to change. because you really have to change that in your mind. Like, it's not something to where it's a problem. Like, once you start playing and you realize that, you can kind of get over it and you can get used to it, but it's something that I would like it to be in line with what they've done before. So to me, that's probably like the biggest gameplay tweak that they can do when it comes to a technical perspective. Everything else with the controls is pretty spot on. Now, next up, it's the co-op. Now, there is a little bit of a co-op feature in this game. You can make it to where one person can control the Legion, then one person can control the user that you have. And while that's okay, they definitely need to take the next step and make it to where you can have another person playing co-op with you in the game if you want. So essentially, the game already has like the whole brother sister mechanic. Well, that would be pretty cool if you can do the brother-sister mechanic on certain missions, or if there was extra missions with the brother-sister mechanics where you can go through unique gameplay missions where both of you guys have to go through and fight right there, because there's already missions in the game where they do that. But it would be dope if you can actually have another person playing alongside of you, whether that's online or that's local co-op. I think that would be fantastic, so you don't have to split between the Legion and the person playing when it comes down to the co-op. So they have a good idea at first with the co-op play, but it's not fully fleshed out to include another person and their Legion. So if they did that, I think that would be a huge help to the overall appeal of the game and the overall gameplay, because they already have co-op in there. It's just the co-op isn't that great when it comes down to it. Now, next up would be the frame rate of the game. This was a big, I wouldn't say controversy, but definitely something that I could point out as well. The game runs at a very smooth 30 frames per second. It's not bad or anything. And once you start playing, you kind of don't notice things too much for most people out there. But having a boost to 60 frames per second overall would definitely help out for those who do want that 60 frames per second boost with these type of games, right? When you're playing something like Bayonetta, the 60 frames per second really does help out. A lot of these action games, Devil May Cry 5, for example, 60 frames per second is very good with that. And even like with the recent update with the PS5 on the God of War game, the God of War 2018, that was great to play that game at 60 frames per second, or even playing some of the older God of War games at 60 as well. So anytime that you have these action games, combo based stuff like that, it's great to have that 60 frames per second option in there. So I'm hoping that in the next one that they actually have that, because once again, it'll be okay for those who want to play it at that. And then maybe if people want to play it with higher fidelity or whatever the case is, they can have a 30 frames per second option with better graphics. So hopefully they do have that in the next game. Now, next up is more Legions to choose from and customizable loadouts between each of the Legions, which we do already have customizable loadouts. Like, you can pick certain items that go on different Legions, but multiple unique loadouts per Legion would be better if they did that. So you can say, hey, I want the Sword Legion with the defensive build and also the Sword Legion with an offensive build, and you can customize your loadouts per a Legion with multiple ones. I think that would be really good to kind of just make things even a little bit further when it comes to customization, but also just more Legions in general. There was 5 good Legions in the game and they're all really dope, so I do like that. But having maybe like, let's just say 9 to 10, and you can have certain ones that you take in with you. So you can have 5 anytime in your inventory when you go out, and maybe once you get to certain places, you can swap them in or out with different Legions. That would be really cool, because there's a lot of dope Legions in the game. The Great Sword Legion, you have the Dog Legion, you have so many different ones in there, but there's more that they could do. You can use a lot of different types of weapons and other things to create unique Legion ideas. So to me, it makes sense to kind of say, okay, we're going to bring in a lot more Legions here. I'm going to let you kind of customize and kind of accessorize them the way that you want, and even be able to have multiple ones that aren't in your possession when it comes to once you go into the game, but you can swap them at certain points and everything. So I think that would be really cool if they did something like that. Now, next up, I would say the detective tools in the game. This is something that kind of ties in with the story. I think that the detective parts in the game are actually not bad. I think they're pretty good for the most part, doing like the detective stuff. But I feel that it would be better if they actually had more tools to solve the detective cases, right? You do have your Legion Iris that you can use to kind of see different things and analyze clues and all that. But it would be cool if they actually added in more different tools and more ways to solve those crimes, or more ways to play detective beforehand, because I thought that was a really cool thing with the game, being able to have that detective part. I think it does a good job of breaking up just a pure action in the game where you're going and like you're questioning people, you're going and kind of finding out different clues and replaying different things and using the modern technology to do that. That's actually a lot of fun, but just having a little bit more depth to that, I think in the sequel just makes sense for them to do something like that. Now, last but definitely not least would be the motorcycle combat in the game. The motorcycle combat is actually really good. I loved starting out in that first mission where you're out there and you're blasting people on the motorcycle and you're doing all this different stuff, and then pretty much for the rest of the game there's no more of that. And I don't know why they didn't include more of the motorcycle combat. And there are options or times where you take out your motorcycle, but they don't have a bunch of like areas or locations where you're actually using the motorcycle and fighting in different types of boss battles or anything like that. That's what I was looking for in this game. I was thinking when I first played it, I was like, okay, yeah, there's definitely going to be like a boss battle where there's somebody on, you know, that's just like a big old demon or whatever the case is that's out there, and you're just fighting it on the motorcycle. Maybe you jump off of it and do some crazy combos, then jump back on your motorcycle. I thought it was going to be something like that, but nothing like that ever happened. So I'm really hoping in the next one that they actually add in some more motorcycle combat and make the motorcycle scenes even better. Like, let's have multiple motorcycle scenes. Let's have more motorcycle combat. Let's do all of that when it comes down to it. But yeah, those are kind of the things that I was looking at. And there was one more thing that I think that they should add for sure when it comes to like the open-ended areas. At one point, you do get to a point to where you can kind of run around the city and you can solve different things and you can pick up trash and kind of do side quests and all that. I'd love for that to be more involved with the overall game and not just those unique parts. So make it to where that is the game, the whole area in terms of you going and everything. It's not based on just like the chapter and chapter and chapter. It's like, okay, hey, you can just go into this area, you have your quests that you can solve, you have your different things. It's not so segmented in terms of when you replay it and how you have to redo everything. Everything is just kind of flowing uniquely within the game without the chapters kind of breaking things up. So you have this nice little area to play with, and then from there, that hub area, you can go off and into the different chapters, or you can go off and fight or go off and do like the main things. Gameplay and a structure within the game that's just a little bit more free flowing, more so than being restrictive by chapters and saying, okay, well, I got to redo this, and it reloads everything with the chapters. So I get why they did it, but I think going forward in the future, just make the game kind of more open to where, hey, you can kind of just move around wherever you want inside that city. You can go to the Neuron HQ if you want to. You can go do side quests when you want to, and then you can go do the main story when you want to. And then if you want, you can replay that story, but it's not to where it resets everything when it comes to the chapters and all that. So that's just my take when it comes down to what they can do to make the game even better, because the game was already a A+ game in my opinion. It was already fantastic back when it came out in 2019, but these upgrades and additions would make the sequel, on top of whatever else they're going to do, even better when it comes down to it. So those are my thoughts on Astral Chain 2. Maybe we get something in the next few years. I'm not keen on it being on the Nintendo Switch. I think it's going to be like a Switch 2 type of game, but we'll see what they do with it. But what are your thoughts when it comes to Astral Chain and Astral Chain 2? What could they do? What are some other additions that you feel that they can add to the gameplay, to the story, to make it better? Let me know in the comment section below. All right, guys, that wraps it up for this video here. Thank you so much for watching. I do appreciate it. Please make sure you hit that like button, subscribe if you're someone new, click that notification bell, and we will see you for the next video. Peace.